And hi everyone, welcome once again. This is a new video. We're doing something a little bit different today, but this is Fifi Squeaks, and I wanted to give a quick shout out to Abe Goldfarb, who was kind enough to sit down with me for an interview. But right before we jump in, please support this incredibly talented man's work by checking out his novel, Sheepneck, which is available right now, and his film, First Time Caller, which is also available right now. You can find the links to them below, so please check them out. And we'll talk about them a little bit in the interview. But for now, let's jump right in. Let's go ahead and start with introductions. So tell us who you are and tell us a little about yourself.
Hi, I'm Abe Goldfarb. My pronouns are he, him. And I'm a voice actor in a number of games. Also work on stage, screen, some writing. Just general all around creative busybody.
Mm-hmm. And so before we actually get into the questions, I have to ask because I was checking out your Blue Sky bio this morning, and I saw that you also have your lusciousness. Where did that come from?
Oh, I don't know. It just from my brain, really. I just sort of was tickled by the idea of being called your luscious.
No, I totally get that. Um, I did see that you mentioned that you also do screenwriting and acting, and you on your Blue Sky page you mentioned First Time Caller. So what's that about?
First Time Caller is a science fiction thriller comedy, very
Mm-hmm.
dark comedy. And it's a sort of end of the world story told from an asshole streamer's basement. That's what it is. I'm really, really proud of it. I think it's a delightful film. Uh, I got to make it with some wonderful people. I co-directed with JD Brin, fantastically talented guy, and Mac Rogers wrote it, and he's sort of audio drama and theater supremo, incredible talent. And yeah, it's just kind of a nasty, funny, fast, very talky, apocalyptic thriller
Mm-hmm.
about the biggest jerk you've ever met in your life.
Okay. Well, and we can see it on Amazon, I believe.
That's right. You can rent or purchase it on Amazon, or you can watch it with commercials on Tubi.
Okay.
Either way, just do watch it. We're always really excited to think about it.
Yeah, I definitely plan on giving it a watch myself because,
Oh, cool.
yeah, I just have to figure out when to put it in my schedule with Thanksgiving and everything going on, all the holidays. But besides that, thank you for the recommendation. Uh,
I'm delighted to recommend my own thing.
I mean, that's you know what, that's fair. That's fair.
It's not like I was digging deep on this one. I wasn't like, "What is a great silent film from Germany that I can really throw your way?" The answer, by the way, is, of course, Fritz Lang's Die Nibelungen, which has a life-size fire-breathing dragon. Anyway, it was the movie that, basically convinced Goebbels that, like, Lang should make propaganda for the Nazis, and Lang was like, "Thanks, but no thanks. I'm leaving for America." It's actually, like, as a text and a meta text, really incredible because it was sort of this I'm going way off on a tangent. Die Nibelungen was kind of like one of the sort of Germanic, origin myths,
Hmm.
based on this one based rather loosely on the Ring cycle. Wagner made it an opera. And these 2 films were astonishing works of fantasy, and the Nazis were like, "We really, really think you can bring some of that vision to the stuff we wanna make," and Lang was so disgusted that he just immediately departed Germany for Hollywood.
You know, it feels like all
Anyway,
the
I'm
best people do
slightly
that.
obsessed. But yeah, if you get the chance, Die Nibelungen, it's long as hell. It's gonna take, like, 4.5, 5 hours of your day, but it's so worth it. It's so
Hmm.
beautiful.
You know what? Honestly, I'm no stranger to long films. I'm definitely one of those girls that will watch long video essays that are like, "Oh, hey, I just used up 8 hours of my day and I'm fine." You know.
Right, see, I can't do the video essays. I'll watch very long films. Like, I'm a big fan of Indian films from all regions. You
Hmm.
know, the Hindi, Tamil, and Telugu industry, 3-hour film is pretty ordinary, and sometimes even longer than that. Or, Wim Wenders' director's cut of The End of the World. I love a long movie. I can't video. It just makes me want to be watching the movie that they're doing an essay about. I'm just like, man, I wish I was watching that. No
You
matter
know,
how talented the person is, I always wind up thinking, "Yeah, I just want to see the art."
honestly, that's kind of fair because it's actually something that a couple of my friends have a problem with because I recommend like, hey, let's watch this video essay on this movie or this game, and they get through like maybe 20 minutes and they're like, hey, you know what? This seems cool. I'm gonna buy, and they immediately leave the call. You know,
Yes.
it's definitely
See,
like when a
I
Mhm,
enjoy discussion. I enjoy discussion of art. Big fan of just sitting around with some people and just like tucking into it, like really, really tearing a thing up and interrogating it,
mhm,
saying, "What does it mean to me? What does it mean to you?" And sitting there while someone else. It's one reason I have trouble with podcasts
mhm. Really?
because, broadly speaking, I'm some would say far too active listener, and so when I'm just sitting there hearing someone's opinions, I'm just like, I want to talk about it. Just sitting here and hearing it, it's going to wind up sliding off of my brain. Although I adore written. When it comes to podcasts, I enjoy reading a transcript.
Mm.
Uh, Listening to it, for some reason it misses some crucial part of my.
You know, I actually have a background in teaching, so I'm very familiar that some people prefer like reading something or actively engaging in something. I know that
Yeah.
myself, just like you, I'm not really I don't do well with lectures. The only reason that it's a little better with video essays for me is because I'm engaging with it. Like I have a little notepad, thinking about my notes, things that I want to share with my friends that are actually interested in it. So, totally get it.
So you take a very active role in that listening.
Mhm. Um,
That's wonderful.
yeah, I don't know if it's the teaching background or the English right because I'm a semi-professional writer myself, so that might be part of it. But yeah, active listening and active participation is really important to me.
Hmm, right on. Amazing. Can I ask what you teach?
Oh well, right now I'm not a teacher. I work with special needs kids. So when I'm not streaming or doing videos like this, I I'm an educational assistant working with special needs kids, primarily in English language arts. Um, yeah, so it's incredibly rewarding. I mean, I'm not going to lie and say that it's not stressful because it is.
Of course, it's
And
stressful. I did
Mhm.
3 years special needs adults direct care,
Oh wow.
and so yeah, no, I know that there's a huge burnout rate
Hmm.
with any job of that nature because it does take a lot. It's very rewarding, but it's also tough.
Hmm. Yeah, I know. It's the same thing with nursing or anything in the medical industry, really, or not pharmacology, funeral stuff. Like
Oh, sure.
it's incredibly stressful, and I know a lot of people that work in those industries, so I definitely hear the stories, and we commiserate on the our struggles. Really.
I've taken us so far afield of whatever it was you wanted to ask about.
Oh, I don't mind at all. Like honestly, it's been really fun. But I was first introduced, so kind of veering back, I was first introduced to you when I was doing the Primordia Let's Play on my YouTube, and James Spanos, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, but James, one of the Primordia devs, responded to a comment I made about your work as Crispin. Basically, how much I loved it. I actually have this running bit where whenever Crispin, the character, says something that's really funny to me, actually end up having to stop, smile, and just say, Crispin, please. What? We're
And that
trying to
that
be
is kind
serious here.
no, but that is the reaction, really, that Crispin so, like, anytime he well, quote, unquote, "mouth." Yeah.
Yeah, it's
I loved voicing him. It's such good writing, such a good design, beautiful storytelling, great storytelling in a game.
oh, absolutely. Like it's definitely one of my favorite point and clicks because of the story and just getting to share that with people. Because I played it before when it first came out, And one day I decided to revisit it for my YouTube, and I refound the joy so fast because, like you
So
said, the writing was awesome. The voice work, especially the banter between you and Horatio.
give me a
Um,
break. And Logan is unreal. Logan's performance just
oh yeah, like I think I first found Logan in Bastion. I think yeah, and then I kind of followed his work, and then when I revisited Primordia, I was like, oh hey, I know that voice.
you
But
know, just wildly talented, lovely person. I mean, it was a kind of miracle of casting.
mhm,
And it almost wasn't me playing
really,
Crispin. Yeah, yeah. No, there was I think it wasn't it there was someone who I think had been initially pitched as the voice.
hmm
And then Dave had me, but they very kindly, really flattered enough. As I say, the writing is so good.
hmm like which actually leads into the next question I had because I was looking at your IMDb before the interview, and I saw some of your earliest work was like I think you were in the Shiva. I hope I'm pronouncing that right.
My first Game Boys, yeah.
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 How did you get into VA work?
Well, I mean, Dave Gilbert,
Hmm
the man who runs Wadjeteye, designs many of the games and voice directs the others. Um, or rather writes the game design is his, not the visual.
hmm
Number of wonderful artists, including recently the great Ben Chandler. But it's not even that recent. I'm a little bit old. It's been a long time. But Dave and I went to summer camp together in 1991 at a camp called Bucks Rock,
hmm
and I just immediately loved him. I thought he was an extraordinary, delightful person, very creative. You know, he'd made a short film there about a private detective called Private Public that was so silly and it was so much fun. And we became besties. And so, over the next, I guess it was 14 years, but we hung out and we played games, a lot of Sierra games. Sierra was kind of the pinnacle of gaming for me. I loved that era. All of the Quest series,
hmm
King's Quest, Space Quest, less Police Quest, uh, but
I mean, I don't blame
Manhunter.
you on that one.
Thank you. But yes, Manhunter, incredible.
Hmm
And and Dave started doing these, I guess, game jam 2000. Just came up with these fun ideas, made these games real quick using the name of that engine, AG. Yes.
no, it was AGS.
Uh,
Yeah, AGS Studio, I
yeah,
think.
yeah, 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 yeah. And he just developed this immense facility, and he did this game called the Shiva, which was a murder mystery about a rat. And I'd never done voice acting really. I'd always been on stage.
Hmm
And he said, "Look, will you voice Rabbi Stone, the character?" I thought, my best shot. And for the first several of those games, we recorded it with, frankly, it was like a telemarketing, like a headphone microphone setup. It was not an incredibly clean or high quality sort of recording. But yeah, like it's just because we were friends, and then he had an improv group, and he got a lot of voices from that. But ever since then, he just keeps calling on me for games. I'm very grateful because, to be frank, working with Dave, I learned how to voice act through his work, and he learned
hmm
how to voice direct, which sort of gets at something I've always believed about art. The best way to learn about it is to do it. Like, it's not that I disdain the idea of any kind of artistic scholarship. I think great schools to teach art put you in a position where it's like, okay, you have to make something.
True, true.
There is theory to learn. There's lots of history, but I do think that the most important part of it is making things. And Dave really was, after spending years studying these games, very much like a self-taught game maker. and you can see his work develop so much even over the course of the first few, from the Shiva into the Blackwell series. His
Hmm.
notion of narrative, his character, it all develops. And I mean, his most recent Old Skies, I remember he was pretty stuck on that, written himself in so many corners. But what he eventually came up with was remarkable. And I believe, of course, Sally Beaumont, the great voice actor, writing with him on. And that's another part of being an artist is knowing when to ask for help, when to just try and outsource some of it. Like, I'm having trouble. But no, his ambition grew very quickly. Narrative ambition and thematic ambition. And
Hmm.
it's really incredible to see it part of that. It's very, very it's an honor.
You've actually covered a lot of things that I personally feel about like art or any kind of creative venue, because in my, again, I'm semi-professional. Mostly I do short stories and obviously streaming,
Cool.
but and I actually have done some game writing with Endless Dark, which is on Steam,
Cool.
a contributing writer. But whenever I tell people this, they always say, "Oh, well, that's so amazing, Fifi. I'm surprised you could do it. I could never do it." And I always tell them, "Yes, you can. You may not do it the same way I do it, but that's okay because, as you do it and develop your own style, you'll get your own style."
Yeah.
Um, because, for instance, I know that for me, I have a background in writing mysteries, romance, erotica, fantasy, that sort of thing. But I struggle with horror. I struggle with adventure stories, more like Indiana Jones adventure stories, because
Mm.
that's, or science fiction, because those are not my background. I enjoy the media, but I haven't really done a lot of work writing those, so it's a struggle. So, like you said, it's all about getting out there and trying to do something, do
Yeah.
the thing so that you can do the thing better next time, and then reach out and
Yeah,
ask for
that's the
help.
thing. It's always gonna be it's always gonna be a gradual process. Like, I mean, as my own particular neurodivergence is just like, if I don't get it perfect, oh, I'm done. And I have to really fight that inclination.
Hmm.
I'm curious why you call yourself semi-professional. It sounds like you paid to write,
Um,
which would make you a professional writer.
so this is something, and I know that my partner is going to be watching this later, and she's going to get on me as soon as we get to this question. But um,
Good.
it's, but she
You're
she,
screwed, Fifi.
I know,
You're about to get nailed to the fucking wall.
yeah. All right. If I don't make the next stream, you know why.
Yep.
But you're right though, because I should call myself, treat myself as professional because I am paid for write. I guess it's more the fact that most of my writing is more in the marketing,
Okay.
which I'm good at, but it's not where my passion lies. So my passion is more in writing fiction, or
Ah,
I
so you are talking about the kind and genre and arena,
yes.
not the idea that you actually do just get paid to write.
Hmm. Yes.
I mean, think about it like this. I'm a professional actor, but a lot of the work that I do as an actor, not at stuff that I generate myself. I spent a long time doing commercials, and I don't consider myself a semi-professional actor because it was, essentially doing sales.
Mhm.
So I would say don't sell yourself short.
I appreciate that. And again, because my partner's watching, I know you're going to dog on me right now, but I promise I'll work on that. So thank you for that.
Prepare to be dogged on, Fifi. Work on that.
I might be a mouse, but I'm going to get, my partner's going
Oh,
to get that dog in me.
you know it. You know it.
But you're absolutely right, because I have self-published under my dead name, so nobody's ever going to know about it. But I have self-published before, and I hope to actually get more published work out there in the new year, because this year
Cool.
was rough. This year was rough for a lot of reasons, but we're not going to go into that.
Okay.
But honestly, I am in a spot where I can actually create. Like, I never thought I'd be interviewing anyone, so this is kind of a treat for me. So you're absolutely right. I need to reconceptualize how I view myself and my work.
Well, my mother, she's in her 80s now,
Hmm.
in her 70s. She started writing. I mean, she'd always written. At least she'd had a habit of writing things down. But then in her 70s, she started writing stories, nonfiction, some fiction,
Hmm.
going to writing groups. And she would send me her pieces. Unbelievable talented writer, quite shockingly talented. And I remember she tells this story, which is that when I complimented her on what a wonderful writer she, like, think of myself as a writer, I said, "Stop writing," and she said, "No." I said, "There you go. You're a writer."
I'm gonna
You know,
remember
I
that.
think I think we all have these invisible criteria
Hmm.
that we set for ourselves. Think of if you're a particular sort of person, and I am that sort of person. Very, it's very easy to find ways to delegitimize oneself. Like for
Hmm.
instance, I've been on Broadway. People call me a Broadway actor. I'm like, no, I'm not. Like I'm just this like downtown weirdo. And they're like, "Yeah, you were on Broadway." And I was like, "That's not the same though as other people who've been on Broadway and are actors on Broadway who are Broadway actors." It's just like for whatever reason, it's just so easy to think, "Well, sure, it's true for others, but by my criteria, I'm not legitimately that thing." And really, it's just an act of like self-hobbling. I mean, I'm working on it, but I also know that it's going to be an ongoing project for me
Main
to
type of
take
truth.
myself seriously as a professional artist.
Yeah, it's so true too because I know that my therapist has been working with me on that, and I am better. I will say that, but clearly there's still work to be done. Like you said, it's self hobbling. It's um, holding yourself up to a much harsher lens than you would
Yeah.
anyone else, and
But is
that's
it insane
mhm.
that I was literally on Broadway and that I'm still just like, "Yeah, that ain't me." That's wild. You try and explain that to somebody and they will look at you askance.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, and I do have to ask, like, you said you were on Broadway. What productions were you in?
I was in Beetlejuice, the musical.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh,
in the original Broadway run in the Winter Garden, I was in the ensemble and I understudied all the male roles, and then I was on the national tour of it, and I played Otho.
okay. Now, so I didn't actually get to see it because I was in process moving when it was doing the run when it was coming to my neighborhood, so the money wasn't there.
Oh,
But
I
um,
get you.
I because I during its run I moved away from South Carolina to my current home, and that was a big old production. But I actually did listen to some of the music because, of course, I did, and it looked like a really fun production. I'm really sorry that I missed it because Beetlejuice is just a fun movie, and I was so excited to see how they adapted it to a musical production.
It's a classic film. The show is great. It's very different from the film.
Hmm.
It follows one of my favorite rules of adaptation, which the original thing is what it is. And if you're going to adapt it, you should bring a new perspective.
Hmm.
I'm not a big believer in the idea. Let's try and give everyone the thing exactly. For instance, like Lord of the Rings, three of the greatest movies of the 21st century, make
Hmm.
so many alterations to the source text because, I'm sure you could do a version that was just like, for instance, the Harry Potter films are, not to bring up her, but the
Yeah, no,
Harry Potter
totally.
films are very much sort of like, here's the stuff you like from the books,
Hmm.
and for a lot of fans, that was really what they wanted. And Lord of the Rings, I think, took a lot more leeway in terms of adaptation and emerged less as adjuncts to the text and more as kind of like their own thing. There are people who have seen the Lord of the Rings films who love them who've actually never read the books. because the films stand very much on their own. And I think the Beetlejuice musical, what's interesting about it is that a lot of the fan base from the get go were people who didn't really know the movie. A lot of young people came and saw the show, and that's their Beetlejuice. You know, there's so many changes and so many differences. There's homages and stuff from the film, but the musical takes the narrative in some very different. And to me, that's really exciting. I had a friend who texted at intermission,
Hmm.
and the first act of Beetlejuice ends with uh, Banana Boat song,
Okay, right.
which is an iconic sequence from the film. But he texted me and he said, "I'm I'm like absolutely out of my mind about this because I know that scene, but I have no idea what's coming next because everything that had been set up was so kind of like it's almost like fan fiction, like A plus fan fiction by super fans who love the movie and the cartoon, very iconic. So I mean, it's like the musical very much. First of all, the musical is from Beetlejuice's point of view in a lot of respects. He does a lot of direct address to the audience, kind of the MC.
Hmm.
And so much of it is about this frenemy relationship between him and Lydia. Whereas in the film, it's basically about the Maitlands, and Lydia Dietz. And the function of the Maitlands in the stage music is a little bit different. And Lydia sort of gets to haunt her house with Beetlejuice. There's a whole sequence of that. It's really, really cool. They drive out all the adults and they turn the place into this like spooky house. And it's just a bunch of cool stuff that asks, well, what if we did this? And I love that for an adaptation. I love it. It's so much more interesting to me to say, here's the screenplay, but we've thrown some songs.
I kind of feel the same way because some of the best fan media, some of the best transformation of a work that I've seen is when they take like one facet of a character or one scene and really expand on it. Like since we were talking about Beetlejuice,
Yeah,
there was this short YouTube short that I remember seeing, which was just a conversation between Beetlejuice and Lydia because Lydia had grown up, she moved away, Beetlejuice was out of her life, and then she
right.
came back with a kid and married, and they were just having this conversation about how Beetlejuice had the capacity to be kind, a good person, or a better person at least, and the impact that they had on each other. And I remember just being captivated by this because I was thinking about it like, yeah, I could see this, especially after the cartoon, like you mentioned, or
Yeah.
after seeing the film. So it's really cool and I kind of feel like there's a certain sincerity that comes in when you have these super fans, like actual fans, that can take something and modify it, or like, what if we did the story from this perspective or from this?
Well, it's
Yeah.
about having a point of view. That's everything that art is about.
Hmm.
Like when we were on tour, we do Q&As, and there'd be so many young people in the audience. Be like, how do I become a Broadway actor? Of course, some people are like, well, here's some classes. And my thing was like, don't even worry about it. Like, make stuff. Find out what your point of view is because point of view is like you got to find out who you are as an artist. I
Hmm.
will also say that, I don't really believe in handing stuff over to the fans in a lot of respects. Just because like I mean, God, look at what happened with Star Wars. The fact that like the fan base got so violently angry after The Last Jedi. They were so upset. They were like, you should leave this to the fans. It's like, all right, well, what would you do as a fan? And they're like, Luke Skywalker would literally leap into the air and slice the island in half. And I'm like, all right, that's boring. That sucks. That's ridiculous. It sort of turns into a kid in the tub bashing their toys together, and
True. That's true.
and a lot of studios have gotten together sort of fan consortiums to make sure they don't upset the fans in the wake of where they're like, "Is this okay?" And I think that's like that to me is not a helpful way of approaching storytelling because you wind up operating from a place of, well, you don't want to do anything too new, right?
Hmm.
You want to make sure that you please quote unquote the fans. but the fans, broadly speaking, and I'm saying this with absolute respect, are not that many people. The fans are not the general audience. And a fan has spent so much time thinking about this particular thing, movie or book, you know, that they've got such set in stone ideas about what it means and the things that like follow quote unquote the rules in that particular universe. And I think sometimes that's a bit of a detriment to telling a story. I think sometimes you have to be willing to tear up the rules and try something new,
Agreed.
you know. And of course that's why a lot of quote unquote fans got very, very upset after The Last Jedi. Because Ryan Johnson just thought, okay, well, what if we tried this? And to me, as an audience member, that was the most exciting Star Wars film I'd seen in 2 decades. Oh God, more than that. Jeez, I'm old. But like, I enjoyed the prequels, but I also, the last time I was excited about a Star Wars story that I was Return of the Jedi back in 1980. I was 4 years old and obsessed with it.
Hmm.
And then watching The Last Jedi, oh my God, this is the work of someone who loves Star Wars and who also wants to, I don't know, dig into it a little, say, well, what does it all mean? And so that for me, I can be a little bit weird about the idea of like, give it to the fans because very frequently the fans have such a set in stone idea about what something should be. For instance, if like somebody was a genuine Beetlejuice super fan, like if they
Hmm.
were a hardcore Star Wars style fan of Beetlejuice, they would never have allowed so much of the writing in because it makes confetti out of a lot of the ideas that the film was introducing. It sort of
Hmm.
shoots it in different directions, you know. But anyway, I suppose what I'm saying is it's a great show, and a lot of the people who initially we had film fans coming, and once the musical found its own fan base through TikTok mostly,
Right.
it was kids who just didn't really have a sentimental attachment to the original film. And I would probably bet that a lot of fans of the musical through the musical found the film instead of the other way around.
Yeah, and I kind of definitely agree with this because um, it's it's really easy to fall into. Actually, I remember going into like the Transformers movies or like the Ninja Turtles movies or some of the later Ninja Turtles cartoons and
Sure.
thinking, this is. I did the same thing a lot of super fans did, where I thought this is terrible. It's nothing like what I remember. But then I stopped and thought, like, this is for a new generation because when you create a new version or create a new work or uh, redo a thing but with a different point of view, it it will find its fans, and those
Yeah, and
fans like
why would you wanna do it the way it's already been done? It's already been done.
exactly, yeah, like that's
Yeah.
exactly how I feel because I'm more interested in seeing what a writer or a creative team does with a thing that I love rather than just seeing it over again because I like Lord of the Rings. I've read the books. I don't need the books again. Give me a version with musicals like the classic, I think 1980s cartoons, or
That's right, from
ones,
Rankin Bass.
yes, and or give me the really cinematic movie version, like with Peter Jackson,
Yeah.
because those are three very different experiences, and they're all cool for different reasons, but
Yeah,
they're
and
all cool.
you can get pissed off about what they do with Faramir. Okay, sure, but, like, it works for the film.
Hmm.
Like, Faramir is just fundamentally a different guy, and part of that is the need to get from point A to point B narratively. Everything is sort of ruthlessly focused on, okay, what's the actual core narrative? What are the themes?
Hmm.
And that means you start making changes.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it takes both a great enthusiasm and love, and a sense of ruthless focus of a point of view. Like, what am I trying to say with this?
Yeah, so I definitely agree and take that as advice. Like, do your thing. But
Yeah.
kind of just kind of steering back a little bit.
Oh, yes,
Um,
yes, yes. Once again, I've taken us very far afield.
oh, I don't mind. Like, honestly, this has been a really cool discussion so far, so I'm
Oh,
definitely
cool.
digging it. But there are some things that I really want to know,
Please
and
hit.
it's kind of related. But since you've been in stage plays and things like that, and of course the voice acting work, I have to ask, what are the standout roles for you that you've played? Were there any highlight or low light roles? Like the ones that you really just dug or were like, man, I hope never to do that again. Whatever
Well,
comes to mind.
I don't tend to focus too much on stuff I did.
Hmm.
I also work really hard on making every role something.
Hmm.
Um, gosh, as standout, it's actually kind of hard to pick. I tend to be very forward looking. People often ask me, pardon me, belched. People often ask me, LaCroix, whatever. I refuse to call it LaCroix.
Oh,
Um,
angry water, you mean?
but yes, that's it. Water that tastes like the memory of. Uh, but I tend when people ask me, "What's your dream role?" My answer is genuinely, it hasn't yet been written. Because what I want from a dream role is something new, something challenging that I don't know about. And so if you're gonna ask me like what are my standout roles, I mean, if you want to ask me about some of those roles, I can give you my thoughts on them. But I can tell you that like I'm pretty stoked to talk about all of them.
Okay. Well, since I've been playing these games on the channel, I'm going to go ahead and start with them. But what were your thoughts on Crispin and Tiberius?
I mean, Crispin was just really fun. Crispin was a joy because on some level you shoulder very little, pardon me, narrative responsibility as Crispin. You're kind of you're seasoning, you know.
Hmm.
And so for me, it was a it was a low stress, really fun role. I mean, the responsibility is entirely on Logan. This one, he really had to shoulder the narrative. I'm just sort of floating around, being like, "Meh," and just saying shit. Um, but I mean, I also the thing that I loved about him was sort of a vaudevillian character. He's queued up as he's the second banana. Do you know what a second banana is?
Yes. Yeah. Basically, that
Uh,
the character that tells jokes because they play off of the first banana, I guess it's called.
that's well, yeah. I mean, there you've got your main guy,
Mhm.
and you've got your second banana, and I'm very much the foil, and so it's utterly reactive, so it's a very very I don't want to say easy because it's always work, but it's quite natural, and also I just got to be, and their writing just made it so easy. And when it comes to Tiberius was we're talking of course about Shardlight.
Yes.
Um, Tiberius was great because I very rarely get to play bad guys.
Hmm.
I love playing bad guys. Tiberius is a particularly great one because he's very theatrical. He's got a lot of exaggerated qualities that are fun to play, but also, like all great villains, he's convinced that he's a good guy. Or if he knows he's the bad guy, he knows he's doing it he considers righteous or good reason. And
Hmm.
that gives you a lot to play because he knows he's hurting, but he also truly believes this is the path forward. You know, there's don't get me wrong, I do enjoy sometimes just like a snarling, nasty villain who just gets off on being cruel. But Tiberius is great because he is both theatrical, darkly funny in that way, and convinced of his righteousness. It was really fun to act. And I sort of got to pay homage to, well, there are all these wonderful British actors constantly got cast as villains in Hollywood. As if you're if you're British, you're just going to be cast as the bad guy. That was, I mean, especially in like the 80s and 90s,
True. Yeah.
where the villain in your action movie was going to be once you'd had once you'd had Alan Rickman in Die Hard, that was pretty much, yeah, you're a British guy, you're gonna be super bad. And Tiberius was very much along those lines. I got to pay homage to a lot of the actors I've always and give him this sort of mid-Atlantic accent. And so yeah, no, I loved doing it, guys. That was so much good writing, great characters.
Hmm. Yeah, because when there was one particular scene in Shardlight. I'm not done finished playing it yet because I'm still doing it for the channel. But when he was talking with Amy in the prison, and he was talking about like, do you remember what happened when the bombs fell? Or like, it would be madness. And I'm so sorry, but ties will have loose ends have to be tied up, and you have to die, Amy. There was just so much smarm in that. I was just sitting there like captivated, and at the end of the scene, I just said, "You know what? You know what, Chad? This is an awesome scene. Can I just say this? Like, good job, Abe."
Well, thank you. I mean, I'm glad you're reminding me of it. It's been such a long time since I recorded it. But I think he means it. I really do think that like that's for him, that's what has to happen.
Mhm.
It's not just smarm. It's not him just being a big old bitch. It's him just like laying out a vision,
Yeah, and that
you know.
and that's what I found fascinating about him because he's clearly a villain. He's clearly a bad guy, and he's clearly got these
Yes.
horrible visions. But it there is a through line in his logic that makes sense if you think about it. It's just horrific to think about.
Well, he's
So
operating off of a sense of morality that assumes he has the wider than most
exactly.
people, which is, I think, something that drives fascism
Hmm.
in general. Like, well, take the wider view. And so obviously, I have the wider view. There are expendable bodies in that regard because we need to achieve this. I've always thought that fascism was really about a failure of imagination because it depends upon saying, this is my vision for the world, and it has to be this, as opposed to saying, well, let's develop a vision for the world that allows for the fact that maybe I'm wrong or that other
Hmm.
points of view might have merit, and so I do think fascism eventually comes down to lack of imagination because imagination, empathy, imagination means putting yourself in someone else.
And it's kind of funny you mentioned that because in both games, Primordia and Shardlight, there is a clear message about like what happens when fascism is in power. With Metromind in Primordia and Tiberius in Shardlight. And in both cases they had a vision. They really believe in that vision, but that vision is, like you said, inflexible. It doesn't allow for any kind of thought that maybe I'm wrong, or maybe there is another way, or maybe I'm just doing what's easy. And
Yeah,
it's
because they've run the numbers, and to them, this is the solution.
exactly, yeah. They, like you said, I couldn't say it better, but and it's there's something about those stories where you are a character who in both cases are just coming up from like next to nothing, trying to deal
Yeah.
with basically a fascist state. And it's really interesting as a theme, and it's definitely a game themes that I really enjoy personally.
Have you played Strangeland yet?
I have not, but that's actually going to be the next one I play because I have it.
Okay.
And the dev James mentioned that it's a very different game from Primordia, and he
Very.
mentioned that it was like psychological horror, and I'm down for that. I love me a
I
good
mean,
psych horror story.
but I will say, you asked about standout roles, and now that we're talking about that, I think Strangeland for me, a that was a role that meant,
Oh, why so?
um, well, it demanded a lot.
Mm,
It's a role where you'll understand when you play it. I don't want to get too much into it. It goes pretty wild. Um, but it's a role about mourning, about depression, about self, about the ways that we punish ourselves. And yeah, it was very, very emotionally draining working with Dave on it. And we would sometimes just like take a recording, take a second. Okay. Um, it's a very, very beautiful game. Terrific writing. And, you know, it was another case where I had to prove myself, not just to the writers, developers, but also to myself. It was a huge assignment. And when you play the game, I don't know how much you know about
I've been trying my best to like avoid all spoilers. I did watch the trailer, and I was amused that when I was looking at the trailer and I read the comments, one of the top comments was, "Hey, I recognize Abe." But no,
it. Yeah.
but the vision and the visuals that were in the trailer were so starkly different. Like, I distinctly remember one scene when they do a split on a character's face, and like it shows the what's going on inside of them. That I,
Yeah.
if I'm remembering right, and like you, I grew up with the Sierra Classic Adventure games, so this is so different from like Quest for Glory or Space Quest, and I'm so excited to dive
But the
in.
thing is that's but on a formal level, it really is still in line with the mechanic of it. Is very
Hmm.
and there were some very dark, messed up games. Sierra Manhunter in particular,
True, true.
very dystopian, strange. So yeah, I'm very, very excited to hear your thoughts on it, because to me that was on a computer game acting level, the most challenging thing I've
Well, it is definitely
and
the next one.
and whether or not I succeeded at it is not for me to say. I'm very proud of the
Well, you know what? Since it is the next one I'm going to be doing, and it feels like I'm getting close to the end of Shardlight. So when I get started, I'll let you know. But because
please
I
do.
I love giving feedback on performances now that that's the magic of social media. I can actually reach out and contact people, and I'm always nervous to do
Good
it
point.
because, yeah, I'm always nervous to do it because it feels like I'm kind of invading on someone's space. But which is why I mentioned that I was so grateful that you came to talk with me today. But
Sure, of
it's
course.
so awesome being able to just sell somebody directly. Like I remember playing the King's Quest reboot that they did by Strange Old Gentleman, or I forget the name of the company, but and sending an email to them after finishing the first episode and telling them how much I enjoyed it because of all the allusions to the classic games and how they did their own thing, which we kind of
Yeah,
talked about earlier. And
yeah.
it's always neat. And how do you feel when people give you feedback about like roles that they liked or um, Broadway shows that they've seen that they really enjoyed? Yeah, I've always figured that if you do struggle with like social interaction or social interfacing, that getting into something where you kind of have to just dive in with both feet really can help with that because I I know that I struggled with social anxiety, with self-esteem issues, and streaming has really helped me.
That's
I'm
great.
able to actually like 2 years ago I never would have messaged you in the first place, I'll be honest. But now I'm able to just reach out to people that I think are awesome and just say, hey, this rocks.
Well, thank
So
you for doing it. Means a lot. Thank you.
you're welcome.
Were there any other roles that you wanted to ask?
Well, I actually no, I haven't played it yet, but I do want to ask about Old Skies. But before that, the other role that I know, because you mentioned Pokemon, so I'm going to ask about that as well, but what I really want to know, what was it like working with Owlcat as Jubilost in Kingmaker?
Oh gosh.
Like I know that's an older role, but
That's
I
been a minute. So I hope you'll forgive me. Some of these I won't be as detailed in my memories. With that one, it was I just accidentally kicked the table. Let me start again. With that one, I mean, it was a gig. You know, I mean, that was I didn't really have an awful lot of contact with Owlcat. It was through a company called 3Beep,
Hmm.
and I'd worked with them on a couple things. Uh, yeah, just audition. They liked my take on it, and they had me. And yeah, so I mean, it was very much a gig, but it was
Hmm.
a really fun. And those games, text is so dense. There's so much to get through. I kind of took it as my mission to be like, all right, put a motor on, like really, really just skip along it, stone on the motor, and don't hit it too heavy. And when I finally heard this voice work in context, very, very so cool. It's weird, even though that's one of the biggest roles I've ever. Because Jubilost had so much and so much to say. A lot of people don't know it was, and so then there's like this weird thing of like, oh snap. Um, I really enjoyed. I enjoyed doing it. It was quick. I don't mean to be dull,
No,
but
no, totally, because it is an older role. Um,
it is an older role, and it was just sort of kind of fell into my lap, and I feel so lucky.
and it's funny you mentioned that people didn't even realize because I didn't realize it until I was looking it up when we first talked about an interview. And I went to your IMDb page because it was like, let's talk about some of these roles. And then I go to the bottom, I see Kingmaker, and I'm like, what? Pardon?
Yeah, yeah, it was so cool, and I also I just kind of loved being a shit stirring little bitch. This fantasy, kind of loved that the idea that like there's all of these people who are like on quests of vengeance or king and country. And then it comes to me, and I'm just a little bitch. I make everyone's life a little bit harder, and I condescend to everybody. And I don't know. I kind of love that. I love that in this very very serious universe, Harold Wests, to like bring that little bitch element. I think so crucial. I think a lot of people forget one of the most important parts of any fantasy story. Shitty little guy. If you look at any great fantasy story, you're gonna find at least one shitty little, and that's always the key.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. Like, shitty little characters are always absolutely a delight. They're always fun.
Gollum's the original
Exactly.
shitty little guy.
I can't argue that. It's true.
Or Billy Barty in the Masters of the Universe movie in the '80s, which was iconic for some of
Hmm.
it. The Dolph Lundgren, Frank Langella one. You know, I he's like a classic guy where you're like you're really annoying, but also funny, and I'm delighted that you're making everyone's job hard.
Yeah, totally.
So yeah,
Um,
that's my Jubilost is my contribution to the shitty little guy canon.
Everybody needs to be a shitty little guy once, so.
Absolutely, and I'm so tall, I never get to play a shitty little. I guess you could say I guess you could say that Crispin's also kind of a shitty little guy.
You know,
You know, he's there's an element of shitty little guy in Crispin.
I think that's what drew me to Crispin and Jubilos because like you said, they're shitty little guys.
Yes.
Everything is being really serious. Everybody's trying to take things in a certain way, and then here I am with a one-liner with some sass.
Yes.
Like that's
Contributing nothing but attitude.
exactly, and it's always such a delight. Um, but besides that, I do want to ask about one more role. You mentioned Old Skies. Now I haven't played that yet, but who do you play in that, and what are they like?
Say to because holy cow, there's a lot in there. I can tell you that right off the bat that I played Duffy,
Hmm.
who was a member of time traveling leasing. Oh yeah, if I tell you too much, I'm a little bit of a sassy guy in it, but there's so much more to it. Ah, God, no, I don't want to spoil it. It's
Okay.
just so fun. I'm so excited for you to play it.
Gosh.
And there's some wild turns character.
Hmm.
But that was so fun. That was very low pressure. Like Dave at this point, I'll audition. If they're in the developer, not a Dave Gilbert, he's distributing it,
Hmm.
voice acting, right? These voices. Dave generally comes to me. It's like, I want you to play this because he knows my skill, and he generally has a good idea where I fit.
Right.
And so with Duffy, it really was a case of, I think this is your guy, and we just dove right in, and it came out very natural, very, and I'm really pleased with on some of the more unexpected turns.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's all I can say with that room. So it's so fun. I'm so excited to play it.
Yeah,
But yes, I can say is that it's, it's my favorite thing. It's hanging out, making art with someone I love.
I love
That's what
that.
that's what.
I absolutely love that because, like, excuse me, like, there's something just magical and special about making something really cool things with people that you love or that you care about or that you have a good rapport with.
Yes,
I kind of experience this with streaming because one of my streams, I stream with two other friends of mine, and there's a chemistry that we've developed over time, so we can catch each other with jokes or like with little mistakes that some of us make that we immediately pick up on and just run with.
totally.
And I kind of feel like that's kind of what it is with you and Dave, right?
Yeah, I mean we're very symbiotic. Frequently, he doesn't need to say more than just a couple of
Hmm.
to get me where he needs me because we understand each other. And as I said, you can't put a price on that. I have pure gratitude.
Hmm.
And Duffy was one of the most clear examples. Let's get to work. Sweat. This is just a creative space. Someone
That's awesome. So,
over.
so I can't think of any other roles that I really want to talk about because, like you said, I was actually talking with someone just the other day who said, "Well, what are you going to play next on the channel? Is it going to be more Wadjeteye games?" And I said, "Look, you know how many games they've put out? I'm not
They're
running
really
out
good.
anytime soon."
They're really good.
They are.
The strike rate is huge.
Hmm.
Like they're just yeah, Dave's great. And he has great taste. I think that's one of the most important.
Hmm. But besides that, I don't really have much else to ask. So before we close it out, do you have anything that you'd like to share? Any general advice or any like funny stories from your work or whatever comes to mind?
Gosh, that's such a broad spectrum. It's like, do you have anything? Um,
Fair.
I mean, that's all I can say is, it's like I said before, it's like I said to those people at the Q&As when we were on tour, just make stuff.
Mhm.
Like, really, I can't encourage that. And I think that, they say that people who sing and dance form, their brains can be so much more elastic.
Mhm.
They have less trouble. They have less trouble with memory and less trouble with staying up and active, sort of calcifying in place. I really do think that having a sense of play, activity, is going to is going to keep you feeling good for longer. I'm 46. In theory, I should be really tired. I know a lot of people my age are exhausted, and I don't know, so hype. I'm more hype and energized now than I've ever been in my
Mhm.
happier. I really do think part of that is having a creative life and having people in my life who I create. That's a great way to keep your love of life or to discover it. Because I've gone through serious depression, and art has always been the corridor uh, through which I've walked to find purpose. That's really the closest thing to faith. So yeah, make stuff, find your people.
Mhm. Yeah, I couldn't agree more because I just celebrated my 43rd earlier this month,
Happy
and
birthday.
thank you. And it's like you said, it's kind of the same thing where I feel more alive now. I mean, the HRT is part of it, but
Of
um,
course,
that's
you're
part of it.
self-actualizing. That's
Ex-
gigantic.
Exactly, it's huge. And I'm 5 months in now, but
Oh my gosh, congratulations.
thank you so much. It's been life changing, but on the creative side of things, I'm streaming a lot more. I'm doing videos like these. And I remember the other day I was talking to my partner about it, and I said, I have people that I don't know commenting on my stuff on TikTok or on YouTube, and I don't know how to deal with that. And she just laughs at me and says, Fee, that means you have fans. Deal with it. As you can
It's
tell,
not
she
wrong.
is very willing to call me out.
He is not wrong.
Yeah.
But yeah, keep going. You know, recognize your value as a creative person.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
But,
Right, but once again, thank you for sitting down with me tonight, today. And I'm not sure when I'm going to post this up, but you can read the
I hope
description.
I hope it's even vaguely coherent from my end.
I'm sure it will be. And honestly, this was just an absolute baller time. I enjoyed this, so I'll
Like,
let you know when I start the next games and what I think about Shardlight when I'm finished with it. Because honestly, this is just cool work, and I would love to get to know, just share my perspective on it. But
appreciate it very much.
anytime. But for now, this is Fifi Squeaks. So as always, take care of yourself, stay hydrated, and do something nice for yourself, or talk to cool people in your life. So take care of yourself, and see you around. Mwah.